On 1st February 1959, 9 Russian hikers on a trek through the Ural Mountains pitched a tent and settled in for the night. Hours later, all 9 fled the safety of the tent and perished in the freezing, snowy conditions. Some in the group succumbed to hypothermia, but others were found with grave injuries. Despite the search operations, it remains an unsolved case to this day and is subject to numerous conspiracy theories. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass Incident. In 1959, a group was formed for a skiing expedition across the northern Urals. Under the leadership of Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old radio engineering student at the Ural Polytechnical Institute, who assembled a group of 9 others for the trip, most of whom were fellow students and peers at the university. The initial group consisted of 8 men and 2 women, but one member later turned back due to the health issues. Each member of the group was an experienced Grade 2 hiker with Ski 2 experience and would be receiving Grade 3 certification upon their return. At the time, Grade 3 was the highest certification available in the Soviet Union and required candidates to traverse 300 kilometers. The route was designed by the group to reach the far northern region of the Sverdlovsk Oblast and the upper stream of the Lozva River. The route was approved by the city's commission. The goal of the expedition was to reach Otterten, a mountain 10 kilometers north of the site where incident occurred. This route, estimated as Category 3, was undertaken in February, the most difficult time to traverse. The group arrived by train at Evdel, a town at the center of the northern province of Sverdlovsk Oblast, in the early morning hours of January 25, 1959. They then took a truck to Vizay, a lorry village that is the last inhabited settlement to the north. While spending the night in Vizay, the skiers replenished to keep their energy level up for the following day's hike. On January 27th, they began their trek towards the Otterten mountain. On January 28th, one member, Yuri Yudin, who had several health ailments, turned back due to the knee issues and joint pains that made him unable to continue the hike. The remaining 9 hikers continued the trek. On 31st January, the group arrived at the edge of a highland area and began to prepare for climbing. In a wooded valley, they stored surplus food and equipments that would be used for the trip back. The next day, the hikers started to move through the pass. It seemed they planned to get over the pass and make camp for the next night on the opposite side. But because of worsening weather condition, snowstorm and decreasing visibility, they lost their direction and deviated west. When they realized their mistake, the group decided to set up camp there on the slope of the mountain, rather than moving 1.5 kilometers downhill to a forested area that would have offered some shelter from the weather. Before leaving for the expedition, Dyatlov had agreed he would send a telegram to their sports club as soon as the group returned to Vizay. It was expected by 12th of February. When no message had been received, there was no immediate reaction, as delays of a few days were common with such expedition. On 20th February, the relatives of the group demanded a rescue operation, after which first rescue group, consisting of volunteer students and teachers, was sent. Later, the army and military police with planes and helicopters also joined the rescue operation. On 26th of February, the searchers found the group's abandoned and badly damaged tent on the mountain slope. The campsite baffled the search party. Mikhail Sharavin, the student who found the tent, said the tent was half torn down and covered with snow. It was empty and all the group's belongings and shoes had been left behind. Investigators later said that the tent had been cut open from inside, a sign of just how desperate they had been to get out. Footprint made it clear that the group had left the tent without any shoes. At the base of a nearby tree, next to an extinguished campfire, lay the corpses of 21-year-old Yuri Doroshenko and 23-year-old Yuri Krivonoshenko. Both had seemingly frozen to death, but also exhibited burn marks and multiple abrasions. Not far away, lying in the snow, were the bruised body of the group's leader, 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov and 22-year-old Zenaida. It looked like both had been trying to return to the tent when they died. Some days after this, the body of 23-year-old Rustem Slobodin was also discovered. He had a fractured skull. The remaining hikers were found in a ravine near a shelter they had attempted to carve out of the snow. Nikolai Brignol, a 23-year-old graduate, had a caved-in skull, while 24-year-old Alexander Kolovatov had a deformed neck and was missing his eyebrows. The oldest hiker, Semyon, and 20-year-old Lyudmila Dubinina had a crushed chest with multiple broken ribs. Both were missing their eyes, and Dubinina's tongue was also gone. A criminal investigation was carried out by a prosecutor named Lev Ivanov, but it came to a cryptic conclusion. The cause of their demise, the report said, was an overwhelming force which the hikers were not able to overcome. There were many conspiracy theories that started to floating around, which suggested what had actually happened to the group. Among them, some of the famous being early on, it was theorized by Soviet authorities that the hikers group may have been killed by the Mansi, an indigenous people of the region, based on the claim that the hikers may have strayed onto the secret land or as a part of their shamanic rituals. This was later roundly debunked as a baseless theory rooted in a misunderstanding of the Mansi culture and rituals. Since, if they were indeed rounded up and murdered, why were the bodies found in different locations, some more injured than others? According to this theory, two members of the group, Semyon and Krivonoshenko, were working for the KGB and had joined the group to rendezvous with the CIA agent in the Ural Mountains. While handing over radioactive materials and fake nuclear secrets, the Russians were supposed to take photos of the American agent. The theory was that the American agents got wise to what was going on, leading to a fight breaking out and the eventual massacre of the whole group. In 1990, Lev Ivanov, the man who led the initial investigation into the incident, published a sensational article claiming he had been ordered to censor some of his key findings, in particular the unusual sharp marks on trees near where the bodies were found, which in Ivanov's view confirmed a source of heat ray that had been purposefully aimed at some of the helpless hikers. His article also alleged that floating balls of light and other weird phenomena had been reported over the Ural Mountains in February. He later added, based on the evidence gathered, the role of UFOs in this tragedy was quite obvious. Whether these supposed UFOs were all of alien origin or were experimental Soviet weapons depend on which version of this theory you believe. The idea that the group was killed by a jetty rests on a few pieces of dubious evidence. The first is a photo taken by one of the doomed hikers, which shows a dark humanoid figure seemingly skulking by a tree. But was this a fearsome figure from the annals of cryptozoology or simply a blurry image of another hiker? The second item, cited by pro-Yeti theorist is a parody newspaper the hikers wrote during the expedition, which contained the line, "The Yeti lives in the northern Urals near the Mount Oterten." The most widely accepted theory is also the most mundane. The group fled the tent because of a slab avalanche, then succumbed to the harsh conditions. According to this theory, a combination of factors, including mountain winds and a weakening of mountain snow during the pitching of the tent, led to the catastrophic avalanche. The thinking goes that once the avalanche hit, the group slashed their way out of the tent in a panic, with some of them severely injured by the impact. The ones who escaped with mild cuts and abrasions helped the others flee what they assumed was the danger zone for a full-scale avalanche, only for the whole group to perish from the intense cold or their injuries. Alternatively, online hikers may have escaped the crushed tent without serious injuries, which would explain why there were no tracks in the snow, suggesting people had been assisted or dragged. Thereafter, 2 succumbed to the cold by 3 froze to death trying to get back to the tent, and 4 others died by the ravine, some being badly injured or killed while trying to create a snow shelter. The gruesome facial damage could have been the result of animal scavengers and decomposition. Many Dyatlov commentators are skeptical, and the final details of the slab avalanche theory are still hotly debated. Ultimately, though, it remains perhaps the most plausible explanation of what had happened to the explorers on that cold, bleak night of February 1st, 1959.